Ladies and gentlemen, are we live? Yes, we are live once again. How about that? Even though we are a tad bit early today, we're glad to be here. This is your somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman here. And we're here to actually, I'm here to listen to what you have to say. We've got open phone lines at 949 629 3820. And feel free to give us a call. Your thoughts on state, local, national politics. And God knows there's enough going on for everybody to have an opinion about it in there. So anyway, let's how about this? How about if today, oh, by the way, it's a really spectacular Tuesday, July 28th here in our secret undisclosed location on Newport Harbor in Newport Beach, California. And you know, you can't as I was playing us in with little Rod Stewart, I couldn't help but think about how much time we spent with our inferior president. And if anybody doubts that, I mean, just kind of look around. Is there anything that he's touched that's going well? Did he have the touch of Midas or genius when he decided to listen to old Bibi Netanyahu and join the aerial bombardment fund? Did he? How is that? Oh, and how are those Houthis? How are those guys getting along these days? Huh? They're kind of situated down there near that old Red Sea and Strait of Hormuz. How you liking those rockets there, Don? You presented with all this pre-war planning by the greatest defense secretary we've ever had. I mean, isn't that what you keep telling us? Pete Hegseth is the. Oh, I'm sorry. I called him by his given name. I usually rephrase that as Pretty Boy Pistol Pete, or no, was it Pretty Boy Pistol Pete Hegseth? How about that? So you got him, and you got ooh, excuse me, got a few sneezes to get in. And then let's say you've got a decorated general like General Dan Kane in your Joint Chiefs. So what could possibly go wrong? Well, I'll tell you, I thought you'd never ask. What could possibly go wrong and what always goes wrong and what Anthony Scaramucci knows better than anybody else is that everything Trump touches turns to dog poop. The only question is how much did you lose? How much money did Trump take you for before you realized it was a stinking pile or steaming pile of dog poop? And I'm going to submit to you that I think as Republicans head home over the summer break, I'm still not sure if it's actually official from the Senate, but they're not going to find a bunch of happy people. And so the question is, what? What do we do about it? So that's always the question: is what do we do about it? And the answer is, well, we vote them out. The problem here is that one side plays by the rules and one side doesn't. One side wants open, free, and fair elections, the hallmark of democracy, and the other guys want a dictatorial takeover. A coup, one man led. And when I was thinking about this, of course, I always consult the smart guys in the room to see what they're thinking because I'm, like the least smart guy in any given room. And please God, take my word for that. Don't make me prove it. But let's say, and today is going to be. You see how really nice and sunny it is here, and kind of warm and all that. Well, this show is not going to be a warm and fuzzy show as much as that's my favorite kind of shows. I mean, I was going to name my two dogs Warm and Fuzzy, but they didn't. Anyway, that's just a little solid humor that I thought I'd share with you. Okay, guys. So of course we know the easy answer, right? Vote them out. But now let's work through that scenario, as did what's his name, Jeffrey Toobin, who's that lawyer who had a little personal exposure problem, I think it was. But anyway, we're going to assume that he's been forgiven and all's well. And anyway, as he writes today, what's the worst thing Trump could do in the midterms? And at first you might think, well, he could keep talking about how much he hates affordability as a hoax. He could keep talking about, no matter what it takes, we're going to bomb those Iranians back to the Stone Age. He could be doing all that, but it was a bigger question. What's the worst thing Trump can do in the midterms relative to the terms and rules of the midterms and to the Constitution itself? Is he going to foster a constitutional crisis? You would have to believe he's laying the seeds for it. And so, guys, this is, like I said, I wish this was a little warmer and fuzzier, but this is I keep telling everybody, it really is a red, all hands on deck, red alert. And all hands on deck drill means everybody on deck helping something before the boat goes down. Okay, so it's that, I say it's nice and sunny here, and the breeze is light, and the sky's blue, and all that stuff. But trust me, there's a storm on the horizon that's scheduled to be here early November, and it's going to be a doozy. So let's assume that the Democratic position overall is kind of true. That Trump is going to be unconstrained by anything, law, peace, ethics, morals. He's just going to be unconstrained, and he's going to do everything he can do to what? Preserve his Republican majority, because in DC, if you ain't got power, you got bupkis. And I'll tell you, cajillion times, bupkis is like zero. And what you really don't want is skadukas, because skadukas is like 10 bupkises. So, it may even rise to the skadukas range. So the assumption is he's going to be completely unrestrained. His wildest fantasies can be made true by his enablers, right? So, like I said, the question becomes, what's the worst he can do? And let's give one example. How about that post office directive to not deliver the mail-in ballots to states that don't share their voter data? Huh? Sound familiar? Or how about threaten to withhold funds from states that don't comply with voters' directive, and neutralizing a bipartisan agency that's devoted to administering free and fair elections? And keep in mind, one group of people wants free and fair elections. The other wants to take over free and fair elections. Who are the good guys in that? I would submit it's the guys that want to have open elections. And then it's only the criminals that want to consolidate power and at all costs, Constitution be damned. They're in it for the power. And, we've never seen anything like this before. So, but unfortunately, when you see something for the first time, that means, and you need to respond, that means there's no margin for error. And we cannot let any, we just can't let any Republican cheating manifest itself as anything other than a Democrat victory, which they are moving to prevent. I said the biggest thing we can do is make it a landslide. Too big to rig. Well, he's going to give it his best shot, but so are we. And I'd like to think there's a certain level of fight left in the Democrats. I don't think, I hardly think Ken Martin's been a wonderful head of the Democratic National Committee, but these are just exceptional times, and maybe a kind word or something from Barack Obama will help shore it up a little bit. The Republicans are sitting, or I think Trump's PAC alone has $500 million, $500 million. And if I'm not mistaken, Ken Martin just had to borrow money against the DNC headquarters. He mortgaged the headquarters to get operating money. Guys, we need to get this together quickly. There's no time to waste. And so there's a representative named Joe Morrell from upstate New York. And the what happens November 3rd is just keeping him up at night. Let's say he's a Republican from upstate New York, and all I can tell you about upstate New York is Woodstock, Albany, Cornell, Syracuse, and God knows cold. Okay, so let's move that along. So let's say come November, let's say the Trump friendly local officials, and has this happened before? Trump friendly local officials use fake and false claims of fraud and immigrant voting as a reason not to certify. Ah, now think of it. Does Trump then not certify? What does that remind you of? Kind of shades of 2020. And if you think 2020 was bad, well, let me tell you what's happened since then. Since 2020, more than 30 local officials have declined to certify and install Democrats after they win. And that's been in Arizona, Colorado, Georgia, Michigan, New Mexico, North Carolina, and the great state of Pennsylvania. Uh, so, of course, what's the answer when somebody an official doesn't certify something? You sue them. You get the court to issue declaratory judgment that you have to you got to you got to do this. You got to accept you got to certify the results and turn them in as your statutory, I guess that'd be legal duty requires. Okay, so but that seems kind of easy, doesn't it? Just well, we're not going to certify. Okay, we're going to sue you. It can't be that easy, can it? And the answer is, of course, it can't be that simple. So, and the reason is a huge technical detail that's in the Constitution or the legislative law somehow. So, anyway, the federal law gives the clerk of the House, the chamber, and this is the chamber's chief legislative administrator, the job of assembling the roll of new members to be sworn in January 3rd, 2027. And the current clerk of the House is a fellow named Kevin McCubbin or McCurran, something like that. And he was appointed by Kevin McCarthy in 2023, so he's clearly, got some bias, but he's generally regarded as a bipartisan person. But but you know what's coming. What if, God bless him, Kevin McCumber suddenly finds himself without a job and there's no clerk to certify stuff in the House? Huh. You starting to get a little scared now? Sorry, it's getting really thirsty. And of course, it's California, so it's, the humidity is easy to dry out even when it's kind of a cool day. So anyway, sorry for that 15 seconds, but we'll give it back to you. Okay, so how about nightmare number one? How about the results start coming in and shows the Democrats winning the House majority? And what if Trump declares the election full of fraud and the winners don't get certified? Then Trump could tell Mike Johnson to what? Fire McCumber. And the Speaker of the House has the authority to do this. So you've got Trump trying to take over, screaming fraud, and you've got a clerk of the House that has been thrown out because he won't lie in favor of a Speaker Mike Johnson friendly successor. So now you've got Johnson's guy in Trump's instigation. All right, isn't that bad? And suppose the new guy that's Trump Johnson's pick, the new guy Trump and Johnson's pick, you can imagine that, produces a roll of new House members that gives the Republican the wins where the Democrats actually won. Huh. Does that scare you? Do you think? Let me ask you the bigger question. Do you think they wouldn't do it? And like I said, the speaker has ultimate power to remove, unilateral power to fire the clerk. The problem there is that a permanent replacement needs the vote of the full House. And now, if the speaker can't persuade every one of his guys to replace McCumber, uh, then what happens is you have lots of members that are retiring or not running again. And you would have to assume, God help me, you would have to assume that they would take a very dim view of trying to overturn an election and that they would vote accordingly and Trump will lose that in. Would you bet on it? Or would you ever bet on any of these guys doing the right thing? And based on past history, you cannot bet on them doing the right thing. Then how about let's complicate matters even more, or how about if we let Jeff complicate matters even more? Don't forget that you also have a race against time because there's a key difference between the House and Senate. The Senate's a continuing body, and they just budget from year to year, and they budget accordingly, and so there's never these disasters. Uh, but the House is a clearly different creature because technically the House ceases to exist at noon on January 3rd. If there are no new members and no old members, well, it's not there. It's just not there. And can you imagine the chaos there? So there's a reason that any delay, like it did in 2020, is going to portend really bad things in the House. I mean, think about this. He has disabled the House of Representatives, the Article 1 House of Representatives, where most of domestic power is designed to vest. And he just disables it. This is the equivalent of those old cartoons where whoever it was would light a bowling ball bomb and take a few steps and pretend he's at a bowling alley and just blowing up whatever it is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's how you do that. And again, do you think he would do it or do you think he wouldn't? Give us a call at 949 629 3820. We've got phone lines open. But if anybody thinks that's not a realistic possibility, that Trump would not do that, let us know because I'm pretty convinced that at this point, there ain't a whole lot he won't do to stay in office. And don't forget, he's completely unconstrained. The mere fact that we've had 40, what, 5, 6, 7, more or less peaceful transfers of power means absolutely nothing to him. He'll just soon burn the thing down. He doesn't care. And in case you hadn't noticed that, he doesn't care. He does not care. Yeah, and like I said, the rule is, and why? You see, as it stands now, it's all for Trump and none for you. All for Trump and none for you. And in case you didn't get that, that would be all for Trump and bupkis for you. Or you know what? That's even a skadookus call. You wish you got bupkis with Trump. You get skadookus. Uh, so anyway, any delay that kind of blows up the house, it's just I hate using the word unprecedented, but we will be in a constitutional crisis. We will not have a functioning government, and at least not a functioning legislative branch, and that only leaves the executive and the judicial. So you got somebody to declare what the law is by fiat, and then you have the justices that will just sing and dance their hearts away. Not unlike the real Supremes from Motown. Let's hear it for a little Motown, huh? Okay. So, but one of these people that does have jobs in the exception to the rule is there are some House people that are employed whose employment is continuous and doesn't depend on this. And so there, like I said, there's some House employees have jobs from year to year. And guess what? I thought you'd never get it. Yes, the clerk's job goes from year to year. So he transcends the January 3rd boundary on our date on which the House is declared, non-existent. It'd be worse than insolvent. They just wouldn't be there. So let's way back when, in those good old days, on January 3rd, or the clerk would go to the House chamber with a roll of newly elected representatives, and and then they put a roll on it. But what if he didn't put the official members of Congress? What if the job of putting people on the roll is the new speakers, right? And what if they do win? And so he swears in the real fraudulent contenders. And guess what? That's right. You got a functioning house under the thumb of one. This God, this hurts to say, President Donald Trump. And but let's like I say, let's keep playing around with this. What if on January 3rd, what if the House didn't hasn't approved a replacement for the clerk, McCumber? Which newly member, or how about this? An even deeper question: which newly elected members get to vote for the speaker? And truth of the matter is, nobody knows. You know, uh, this could get. You can have a situation where you have votes on who gets to vote, and you would have a big, ugly mess. I can't imagine the financial markets would take that very well. At a time when we are super in debt thanks to Trump. I see he had no hesitation with his big beautiful bill, giving what was that, $3.8 trillion to his buddies. While what did you and I get? Oh yeah, I forgot. We got the closure of our rural hospitals. We got the end of government subsidies for health care and health insurance. That's and keep in mind they have to go home and run on this. They're gonna have to tell people how they're either gonna have to suck up to Trump or judge how far to try to hold him away. And like I say, it's the actual races don't scare me nearly as much as the potential for cheating afterwards. And if anybody thinks that Trump won't do anything, I mean, think about this. We have a big bad army, right? Navy, Air Force, really nice stuff. More or less, we're not great, but we're pretty decent. And who does he give the keys to? He gives the keys to somebody who watches on TV. And this somebody who watches TV comes into office, and one of his new his new theories is that Americans fighting men need a testosterone increase so they can be violent. Sorry, guys. The ridiculousness is just it's just so on display. It's not funny. Uh, so anyway, you got a TV show host who was what served a tour duty or so in the army, and let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he was a black belt SEAL karate Garrett, though, whatever it is, kind of guy. I don't think those kind of guys really know what a budget is. And if you don't know what a budget is, you're at at a significant disadvantage when you run an organization. So, yeah, think about this. No budgetary experience. Could that be why we've all used? Oh, and that means, let me rephrase that. Just out of curiosity, pretty boy Pete, how many wars have you simulated, or war plans have you simulated and gamed out when you were a host at Fox News? Huh? Can't hear you. What are you saying? Zero. Huh? The answer is zero. And it's like my Spanish teacher used to tell me, "Una cero para usted," and I didn't really want into the ceros, but those things happen. Okay, so so let's say uh, at this point, after to get to the big, huge, ugly mess that Trump surely intends to make out of the House, uh, at this point, you got to assume that there are multiple lawsuits asking uh, for a little guidance. What do we do? And historically, the federal courts and the Supreme Court judges have been pretty reluctant to rule about the internal operations of other branches of government. And then there's the political question doctrine. Sometimes it's just it's just not a proper topic for consideration. And when it is, guess what? The House has to solve its own problems. God, and the House will be the problem. They clearly won't be able to solve the problem. And from the Democrat side, what do we want? We just want a really simple approach. We want to get the certificates in hand from the states, and we want to press the parties to accept the results. And once the court gets the certification, he can put the new members on the roll. Now then just kind of like I say, I keep seeing reruns of 2020, and already Trump suggests a little wrongdoing, and oh what if isn't that what he did in 2020 rather? He suggested there's a little wrongdoing, and there were a little some false representations, and so what if he just went a step further? What if he suspended and tried to overturn electoral votes? Well, we had that, didn't we? Yes, exactly right. And so now what happens? Okay, this was going on when Mike Pence was in the Senate counting the certifications. They're trying to get Mike Pence to quit counting, and Pence crawls under the table and keeps counting. Uh, and if that's heroism to me, and I think it is, then what's the other side of that? Shouldn't there be some liability for, I don't know, treason? When you want to kill your vice president who's, certifying the votes for the election that you lost. So, I mean, you got to just quit it. You got to quit the lying. You just, and ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all the ships at sea, isn't that what this comes down to? Is lying. I mean, when has Trump actually been truthful? I kind of I'm a little hard pressed to remember. Uh, anyone that has the Washington Post counting 30,000 something lives in a 4-year period, it just seems incapable on some level of actually telling the truth. And when you believe false theories and go down rabbit holes, you will wind up with distorted thinking because you follow distorted thinkers. And is it really that hard to agree to play by the rules, win or lose? Yeah, are you guys ready to sell your soul out? And you've already sold it. I mean, why don't you try to retain a little dignity? And it's really funny. Every time I chat with a local candidate, as I did yesterday when I had the extreme pleasure of chatting with Dr. Letitia Clark, who is campaigning for mayor of Tustin, uh, I'm just always, the contrast is amazing. I chat daily with people of integrity who mean what they say, whose word means something, whose word you can take to the bank. There are some people whose words you can believe and take to the bank, and some people, after they say whatever it is, all you say is, "Geez, that's a crock of you know what." All right, let's tribute Anthony Scaramucci. That's a crock of dog poop. Probably a big crock, but let's kind of be real here. So the problem is one side won't agree to play by the rules. Isn't that the narrow issue to be resolved? And apparently it's possible to feel so. It's possible to conjure up an environment or speeches that will make people feel so riled that they deserve the power, that it was wrongfully taken away from them, which was Trump's line in 2020 when he's concocting the big lie on national TV. And he says something like, "This is what happens when a victorious win is baselessly taken away or something snatched away, whatever it was." And I mean, what I don't understand is if someone's been insane for most of their lives, shouldn't it be some like general consensus that there is? And, maybe not give him a pass to the presidency? Sometimes I think the Democrats would have an easy path just concentrating and preaching that we are honest. We don't lie. I mean, we may not be a perfect party. We've clearly got bad apples, but as a general proposition, we didn't make $2 billion in the White House last year. And I'm going to submit to you that anybody that made $2 billion as a side hustle in the White House does not belong in the White House. I wish I could get beyond January 6th. I just can't. And but as much as I told you this is going to be kind of a gloomy day, we'll lighten it up a little bit, and we'll tell my favorite Stormy Daniels story, just to show you Trump's perspective on the truth. And I love doing this. So anyway, Stormy's on trial, and this is for the improper payment, the booking of the fees, whatever it was, or the Michael Cohen thing. So anyway, at some point, Stormy's on a witness stand, and she says something like that, and the attorney asks, "And did you see the defendant Trump on this occasion?" "Yes, I did." "Did he come into your hotel?" And I'm paraphrasing here. "Did he come to your hotel room?" "Well, yes, he did." "And well, while he was there, did he have occasion to take his clothes off?" "Yes, he took his clothes off." "Oh, do you recall what color underwear the defendant was wearing?" "Yes, I recall red underwear." "Red underwear, check." "And let me ask this: did he remove his underwear? Like, did you see his penis or genitalia or personal organs?" And she says, "Yes, I did. Saw him clear as day." And so the prosecutor says, "Well, how about are there any distinguishing features or characteristics?" And Stormy kind of giggles and says, "Well, yeah, kind of hooked. It was a little weird looking and hooked to the left." So the lawyer makes a note, weird looking penis hooks to left. And so the next question is something like, "Did you and the defendant engage in, I've got it, intercourse, sexual relations, whatever it was?" And she says, "Yes, we did." And the attorney says something like, "Well, how good? How was defendant Trump's performance?" And she says something like, nothing great." So, and then he gets excused from the witness stand. So the points for Trump to rebut, or to try, he's got to show his word is more believable than hers. He has to show by evidence that he wasn't it wasn't in California. They certainly wasn't in the hotel room. If he was in the hotel room, it certainly wasn't red underwear. And that if he was there with red underwear, he certainly has a penis that looks normal. And even if he was there with red underwear and a crooked shaped penis and all that, he still didn't, have a relationship with the woman. And he was great, just so it for the record. And so the judge kind of looks down, and the jury kind of looks about it like, "Thank you." And so, how does Trump choose to try to make Stormy a liar? Does he say, like I just ran through, no red underwear, normal penis, excellent performance? How does he rebut that? How does he come back at Stormy and call her a liar? Well, Trump's brilliance really shined through on this one. His defense to I wasn't there is, "I never saw this woman before in my life." And the woman has just recounted tales of his unnaturally shaped penis and his underwear in his performance. So it's a basic question of credibility. Who do you believe more? Do you believe the guy who is or was the president of the United States, or do you believe the down home stripper or and porn actress? And it's just another instance of Trump not telling the truth. He just gets laughed out of court. That's why his lawsuits never go anywhere. They're political statements and they get laughed out of court. He gets a big headline. Of course, the judge dismisses the case. And, and he just goes on like he does. So, guys, listen. On one hand, that's one of those glass half full, glass half empty stories. The glass is clearly full, at least on a local level, as far as having just like a surplus of highly educated, highly people with integrity. I can't tell you how ashamed I am to see Trump at any world class leader meeting and to see him there. I mean, it's just what it is. You're watching Trump sell out the country live in real time. And just out of curiosity, I've got another academic question for you. I'd love somebody to opine on this besides me. So lines are open. Give us a call, 949-629-3820. And to opine on whether Trump is seriously insane. I mean, has he always been this way? And I think we know that he has. He's just all, and it's kind of like Ted Turner. And they were all sailing buddies from, they were originally from Savannah. And anyway, when Big Ted spoke, he pretty well take that to the bank. He had some pride, some integrity, and I'll give you an example with Trump's Wardensworth. Sure, Mo. I guess he calls him Mo. Sure, Mo or Mo BS. Or isn't that funny? Yeah, that's what he ought to be, is Mo BS. Instead of MBS, he ought to be Mo BS. And you know why? Because he does seem to deliver Mo BS. But anyway, so how about when he says, "Oh, my friendly Saudis who are really quick to prop us up with a few billion here, a few billion there." I really appreciate it. And to show you how much we love you, we're going to go ahead and sell you the nuclear reactor blueprints or build a plant, so you can have the reserves of oil of God knows what. We're going to let you save them, export them, dirty up, sully up the world, and give you guys a nice clean nuclear power plant. And so they go, yeah, man, thanks, Don. That's mighty decent of you. And so they kind of copied the headlines for a few days. And then Trump says, but you know something? I think it's not going to happen if you don't recognize the Abraham Accords, which is the extremely, poorly negotiated, another poorly negotiated document courtesy of Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, who are also benefiting at least as much as Trump. I mean, it's just obscene, isn't it? So, and guys, that of course begs the question: what would happen to you in your job if you treated your boss like Trump treats us? I mean, the guy won't tell us how much anything costs. We don't know how much those two airplanes cost. He's sitting on again another $500 million of donations from that ballroom turned bunker. And you know what, guys? Please don't forget this. Trump again promised on the Bible he sells, promises on his little Ivanka's babushka hat. He promised in a million years, not a problem. And then what's he say? Oops, got to join those AV Accords. You changed terms of the deal in 24 hours. So people can't believe you, and they don't. And that's just horrible. And the only reason the markets are running the way they are is it's just fear and greed, the two prominent characteristics of Wall Streeters: fear and greed. So don't think the stock market has any relationship to reality because, and this is a scientifically proven fact, that the stock market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. You got it? The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. And there's quite a few millionaires that, lost their millions thinking that. So, I would never believe that people pay for water, but look at me now. Okay, guys. So let me talk about Dr. Letitia Clark, who came on yesterday. And Dr. Clark came from Tustin. After school, took a job in New Orleans for long. Was there for Katrina, and a funny thing happened during Katrina. She lost everything: clothes, furniture, whatever. And don't forget, she's from Tustin in New Orleans, and she didn't know what a hurricane was. I mean, I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina. I know what a hurricane is. I can remember filling up the bathtub with water because God only knows how long before you had any. Uh, and strange enough, you just kind of, back then everybody had houses that were built fairly well, and you just kind of knew you'd make it through. And we were had a little, it was really strange. My grandparents had the only lot in the northwest section of Charleston near the Citadel that had a little hill on it. So you had to go like a slight incline to go up to the driveway, which paralleled the house. Uh, you know, oh, those were the days. So anyway, Dr. Clark. So she's in New Orleans for Katrina and loses everything. And don't forget, you can't. Nothing's coming in, nothing's coming out. It's just a mess. But through the darkness, she saw the light of helping people, and she kind of settles into her calling of public service. And you're like, wow, you're really here to make a difference, aren't you? And she is. Dr. Letitia Cogg is absolutely here to make a difference. And the really nice thing about this is she's poised to make a difference in Tustin. And I think Tustin is a town not too far from Orange, maybe 10 miles from here. And matter of fact, a friend of mine used to practice law with a mayor of Tustin, Republican guy, Tom Saltarelli. But I chose not to not to bring up the Republican mayor that I knew. Okay, so anyway, so she's mayor of Tustin running for re-election. So, or on council running for mayor. So it just so happens that Tustin, and you may have heard about this, there's a huge Air Force, or there was a huge Air Force presence, and it was the big thing on the land was this huge, weird shaped hangar. It's like one of those things that's taller than it is wider and all that. It's just kind of weird looking. And anyway, it caught on fire. And to make long story even longer, by the time you get like the toxic cleanup crew in there, it's 4 years later. But the property's just about ready to be developed. And this is a huge piece of property where people ain't got huge pieces of property. So the city of Tustin has a huge zoning opportunity. Do they put houses in there? Do they put a little mixed use, a little this, a little bit of that? And I don't know. Of course, I can't tell you exactly what's going out there. But what I can tell you is that if Dr. Clark approves of it, then more than likely it's a really good, really well thought out plan. Um, there'd be nothing wrong with Tustin increasing their tax base. And, it would just, we need, so we need houses, but we don't need $1 million houses, but it's kind of we keep getting. And I was thinking I think the poverty level in Orange County is like $103,000. So let's assume you're beyond that. Let's assume you make $200,000 a year, which is still kind of uncommon. Not a boatload of families can do this, or single people even. But with a $200,000 job, that gives you the opportunity to go into debt and buy what? A $600,000 house, assuming you've got $140,000 to put down for the 20% cash down payment. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to submit to you that it's like this all over. I go to Zion National Park every now and then. I really like Utah, and you know what I see when I go there is houses in small towns like Hurricane and Virgin, and I don't know what you'll see them all. Well, St. George is kind of a big place, but you get the idea. And even these places are $350,000, $400,000. And like I say, to buy a $350,000 place, you have to make 70,000, which is uh, uh well, no, doable, but you still have to come up with the 20% down of $70,000. So we've just got huge obstacles to overcome. I don't, I don't have any great uh, answers for this. I do want to reiterate, and I tell you this as much as possible, that and we're talking about people who can work and buy homes. Now let's kind of move over to the other side of the equation. How about those that can't buy homes, and can't afford homes, and that people frequently refer to as homeless? Uh, and these days and times, it's not there, but for the grace of God, go you or I. It could it could happen to us just really easily. But what I would personally like to see for that is, number one, of course, you're trying to help the most highly functional first. Even though you could argue they ought to help the clearly irrational first because they need it more. And and I can see both sides. I say just do something. Uh, but I have to tell people what the root cause of homelessness is. I don't know if anyone watches Chris Hayes on All In at MS Now, and he always has this line of, how did we get here? And I'm going to tell you how I'm going to tell you the root cause of the homeless problem. And I hope to God you believe me. If not, feel free to look it up. It's just a very simple history lesson. A very simple history lesson that has as its root a very famous Californian. Now, of course, to me, this particular Californian is famous because he made a movie with a monkey called Bedtime for Bonzo, which I don't think you'd see that kind of thing at the marquee, the theater these days. Bedtime for Bonzo. Bonzo was the chimp, by the way, but the human was none other than Ronald Reagan. Okay. And I think we both know Reagan is, he was just a Barry Goldwater, super right wing guy. And when I'm not really crazy about Barry Goldwater because he rationalized a huge defense budget bill and saying something like uh, extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice or something like that. No, but anyway, so Goldwater ran in '64 and got creamed. But anyway, uh, LBJ. So what Reagan does when Reagan's in office, and this is way back yonder in the Reagan first came to office, he won the '80 election or '79 election. Excuse me, and of course he serves two full terms, thanks, followed by George W. Bush, who was his vice president, which also didn't help matters. But what Reagan did was he closed the mental hospitals, those places where people were involuntarily confined, and he just closed them and said, involuntary incarceration is wrong. And if you want to have yourself committed, that's fine, but we're not going to do this anymore. So, of course, there's a huge burden lifted, economic burden lifted. But you've got homeless people on the street with no place to go, mentally ill people. And so you would ordinarily think that there will be some sort of transition or something where they would go. Well, in a stunning bit of I don't know what you call it, of lack of Christianity, lack of humanity, lack of compassion. I could go on and on, but at the same time, Reagan cuts the housing aid subsidized housing voucher program. So you've got all these people that are largely incapable of taking care of themselves, uh, and no place to go. So guess what? We're Americans. We can ignore problems as well as anybody. So this is like 45 years later. Can anybody be surprised? Yeah, I mean, truthfully, and knowing what I just told you, does that change your attitude about Republicans anymore? Because I'm dying to figure out this Christian angle. See, I'm hardly a biblical scholar, but I swear I don't see a whole lot of things that I think you know uh, somebody would recognize as being Christian. And I say, give me a call if I'm wrong or right, because I don't really know this stuff. Uh, but it just seems to me as the kind of this is based on anecdotes and stories I hear. Then let's say Jesus fed what a cajillion people with one fish. Well, and that's just feeding the hungry. Is that like a bad thing? When he washed the leper's feet, was that not trying to heal the sick? You know, I mean, I don't. I just don't see the monopoly on Christian values. You see, I always thought that it was something like clothe the naked, heal the sick, take look out for the children. Um, I say feed the hungry, clothe the naked, shelter the unsheltered. It's just, I think it's called compassion. And uh, the Sikhs have kind of a similar thing to it. They recognize compassion as being just an extreme human value. Excuse me. Um, and just so you know, money is the last reason a Sikh will do something. Every action in Sikhism is designed to get the individual closer to what's known as the one light, or just purity. And like I say, money is the last reason a Sikh will do something. Social justice is the first. And I really like what I really like about Sikhism is no matter what people think, there's no idol worship. But you've heard the word guru, and everybody thinks a guru is some like wise, learned person in any given area. And the truth of that's wrong. Gurus are just revered figures, and even in Hinduism, where they do have how can I put this? Uh, you could I mean just images. I don't know what you would call like porcelain sculptures, whatever it is, and people don't necessarily bow to the thing as much as they just try to show respect for the trait. Yeah, that's a trait, and like I say, Sikhs are like this. When Sikhs have, I think, 10 gurus, and it's possible to be a guru. One there was one guru that was a scientist and poet. Another developed Punjab language. Another one led his people bravery in battle, and they're just revered figures. And that's the way of putting the pillars of the religion on public display. So if you ever get a chance to go to a Sikh Gurdwara, I highly suggest it. You'd be made more than welcome. I know after there used to be services at 9 and 11 on Sunday, and after each service, there was just a community meal. I mean, if they were there, they would feed you. Now that at a Sikh temple, doesn't that seem more Christian than the Christians in the White House? Just kind of curious, but oh, and the other great thing about Sikhism is they believe in complete equality. such that if the prime minister walked into the Gurdwara, behind me, he would just have a seat on the floor next to me. There's no class distinction. And like I say, in case you can't get it, I really think the world of these guys. And if anyone's open to a little, what do they call it, spiritual journey, I highly suggest an extended stop for those guys. I think they're much more on to a uh, I don't know if a perfect religion, but a religion that makes its members feel proud and that conveys conveys honor. And I'm gonna tell you, at the it's funny, at the Gurdwara, they have, on Sundays, of course, it's a big family day, and they have lessons in Punjabi, how to write and read. I think that, I wanted to go, but they were all like, 6-year-old kids. And, while they said there were no age restrictions, after a while, it's just kind of bad to be seen as an adult in a classroom of like 6-year-olds. So anyway, while I didn't do that, God knows I'd love the opportunity. Okay, guys. Uh, I have no idea what's going on, but obviously my allergies are just getting the better of me. So, I'll close with a few minutes and say a few more good words about Dr. Clark and Tustin. First of all, I'll tell you what a geek I was, just so you know. So, I'm getting ready to conclude the interview with Dr. Clark, and there's a really nice looking baby grand piano in the background. And my mother was a classically trained concert pianist. So I'm like, Dr. Clark, well, before I go, one last question. Yes. Is that a baby grand piano, against that back wall? And she just starts laughing uncontrollably. And so somehow I know that, that I'm making her laugh. And at first glance, I don't know exactly why I'm making her laugh. And of course, the reason I made her laugh was it was just kind of a green screen kind of deal. And I was so thrilled to see Baby Grand Piano. It never occurred to me that it was like part of a green screen. And you can tell by looking behind me, I generally don't do like indoor green screen kind of backgrounds. Uh, oh, guys, I do want to say something else. I hate to disappoint everybody, but I just got a text from Jesse Lopez from tomorrow's show, and she has a campaign meeting that's a do not miss. And since I assume that campaign meetings necessarily involve dollars and cents, that it is an important meeting, and we will reschedule. But when you go to that meeting, Jesse, I want to kind of remind you of my mother, my sainted mother. And whenever and something came up with finances and money and all that, my mother was like one of those women who really appreciated the weigh-ins, and she'd go, "More money, more money, more money," and that's just another thing I'll remember my mother for. She loved BET, and so did I. So anyway, guys, it's been about an hour or so, and if you can tell, my throat's getting like really scratchy, and my head feels like a glob on my shoulders. So we're going to go ahead and call it a day here and ask everyone to take care and stay well and tune in. And like I say, we need to start getting some calls here. So, guys, why don't you start calling in and tell us what's going on in your world? Did you have to mortgage the house to go to Disneyland with your kids? Or were you relatively lucky and and they just don't even want to go? So, guys, on that cheerful note, I can't believe it ended on Disneyland, but I will. And again, Dr. Clark, thanks a million. Jesse, we'll look forward to having you next time. And guys, you know what we always say about this time? You don't.